He solved every case, but not this truth. Welcome to Marple Mysteries. I am your host, Harrington. Comment your city. I love hearing them. Tonight, Wolfe faces his own deception. If you've never seen Nero Wolfe's front door, you've missed one of the better arguments against casual callers. It's tall, heavy, and private, like its owner. You don't come to that door on a whim. You come with intent, and usually with trouble. On a Tuesday afternoon, trouble arrived wrapped in a grey suit and a violet scarf. Fritz opened the door, took one look, and called Archie, the way a man calls for a dustpan after a crystal glass hits the floor. I left Wolfe in the office, losing a staring contest with a bank statement, and went to see what the wind had blown in. The woman on the stoop was in her late 30s, composed but wired tight. The suit was quite expensive. The scarf was just enough color to suggest she remembered what fun used to be. Her eyes did the fast sweep. Door, hallway, me getting a closer look at her. "Mr. Goodwin?" she asked. "That's me on my better days." I held the door wider. "You look like someone who wants to see Mr. Wolfe." "I do," she said. "My name is Miriam Archer. He's not expecting me, but he'll want to hear what I have to say." I've heard that line in a dozen flavors, and usually it's baloney. This time it had an edge. "We'll let him be the judge," I said. "Come on in. The meter starts once you cross the threshold." She stepped inside like the air might object. Fritz shut the door quietly enough, but his shoulders told me his opinion of unscheduled visitors was unchanged. Down the hall, she didn't ask the usual Wolfe trivia. No, is he really that fat? Or does he really never go out? She just took in the hats, the umbrellas, the framed print, like she was building a file in her head. That's my job, but I'm not territorial. I showed her into the office. Wolfe was at his desk, bulked up in his custom chair, a book open and face down on top of the paperwork he'd been pretending not to see. His eyes lifted, took her in, and catalogued her in one pass. "Client material?" I asked him. "That is not yet established," he said. "Good afternoon, madam. Be seated and state your business with brevity." She took one of the yellow chairs without fussing, which put her ahead of about half our visitors. I went to my desk, flipped my notebook open, and adopted my look of keen professional interest. "My name is Miriam Archer," she repeated. "I'm here because my brother believes I stole something from him, and for once, he's wrong." That slid into the room and sat down with us. "Your brother is commonly right when he accuses you of theft?" Wolfe inquired, not encouraging but not bored either. "He's commonly right when he thinks I'm lying," she said. "We lie to each other a lot. It's how we've managed to stay family without killing each other. This time I told him the truth, and he decided that was the lie." "Pfui," Wolfe said. "We will require specifics. What has allegedly been stolen?" "A contract," she said. "A signed agreement. My brother is a venture capitalist. He is currently attempting something stupid, reviving a dead company that already ruined enough lives the first time. The contract disappeared from his safe 2 nights ago. He's certain I took it to stop him." "Name the company," Wolfe said. "Archline," she replied. 5 years ago, it was an encrypted communications startup. 4 founders. My brother, Victor Archer, his then wife, Elena, his best friend, Daniel Kent, and Daniel's younger sister, Lila. They had good tech, big clients, and bigger egos. Then there was a leak of client data, a scandal, and a mess. Lawsuits, buyouts, accusations. Victor came out with money and scars. The others came out with fewer of the first and more of the second. "And your part?" Wolfe asked. "I wasn't in Archline. I'm a corporate lawyer. I was the family consultant and emergency couch. They came to me when they wanted a contract explained or a fight translated into English. When it all went to hell, I assisted Victor." "In what way?" Wolfe asked. She hesitated. "I lied for him," she said. "Once. Big. I won't tell you how yet. It's relevant, but not urgent." Wolfe's mouth compressed. He hates being told his priorities. "Continue," he said. "Archie died," she went on. "Victor moved on to other investments, other disasters. Then, recently, he decided he wanted to resurrect it. Same people, new documents. He showed me the draft contract. It had all 4 names again. Daniel Kent as technical lead, Lila as COO, Elena handling brand and client relations. Victor supplying money and credibility. He was thrilled. I wasn't. "Why not?" I put in. "Because the contract is tilted," she said crisply. "The liability clauses, voting rights, equity triggers. It all leaves Victor exposed if there's another incident. It reads like something you'd hand to a man who wanted absolution, not a partnership." "And you said so?" Wolfe concluded. "I did," she said. "I told him, very plainly, that someone was lying to him. I didn't know which of them, but I knew it wasn't all on the up and up. He didn't want to hear it. We fought. He locked the signed contract, his signature only so far, in his safe, to sleep on it. 2 days later, he called me raging at 6 a.m. It was gone." She outlined the mechanics. High-end condo, digital wall safe in his home office, a cleaning lady of 10 years, a doorman, cameras in the hallway. Nothing else touched, no evidence of forced entry, no visitors on the footage who shouldn't be there, and one sister who had his safe code from years back and had recently told him he was a fool. "He decided," she finished, "that I'd taken the contract to save him from himself and that I was lying about it. He said he could always tell when I lie, that my face changes. He told me if I wanted to prove my innocence, I should find the real thief or hire someone who could." "And you," Wolfe said, "wish that to be me?" "Yes," she said. "I want my brother to know I didn't do this, and I want to know who did and what lie they're selling him. I'm not interested in Archie as a business corpse. I'm interested in the people picking at it." Wolfe eyed her. "You admit freely to lying in the past, yet assert your present honesty as exceptional. Why should I believe you?" "You shouldn't," she said. "Not because I said so. Because you'll check. If you find I took the contract, you'll prove it. If you find I didn't, you'll prove that. All I'm asking is that it be known." I've watched Wolfe turn down jobs that paid better and sounded cleaner. This one had something he can't resist, people who think they understand the truth by gut instinct. "Archie," he said, "have we any paying obligations pressing?" "Only the usual utilities," I said. "They believe in us." He grunted. "Miss Archer, you will leave with Mr. Goodwin, your brothers, and the others' full particulars, and a retainer of $10,000. I will then decide whether to proceed." She nodded. "You'll proceed," she said. "You presume," Wolfe snapped. "Yes. Men who hate paradox don't walk away from one this neat," she said, and stood. I escorted her to the door. Halfway down the hall, she stopped. "Mr. Goodwin," she said, "one more thing. Shoot." "My brother isn't wrong," she said slowly. "I'm very good at lying. I've spent years watching my face in the mirror when I do it. But when I told him I hadn't taken that contract, for the first time, I had no idea what I looked like." She let that sit, then stepped out when I opened the door. I watched her go, then went back to the office. "Well?" I asked Wolfe. "Well," he said, staring at the bank statement like it was Archie's ghost. "We are about to invite a long-kept lie into this house and ask it to sit. Call Miss Archer this evening and tell her I accept. Tomorrow you will see Mr. Victor Archer and begin untangling his delusions." He sighed at the statement, shook his head, and reached for his pen. "First, however, we must discharge our obligations to these vultures, one extortion at a time, Archie." That was how it started, with a woman who could lie on command, a contract that vanished, and a brother who thought he knew the truth by reading her face. The brownstone doesn't like being disturbed, but this time the disturbance had already settled in. You may not know this, but there are degrees of disturbance in the brownstone. There's the ordinary kind, like a bill arriving larger than Wolfe's self-esteem, which produces grunts and profanity, and a temporary freeze on my liquor budget. Then there's the higher kind, where a client's trouble leaks in and sits down somewhere between the bookshelves and the beer. By the time Fritz served dinner that night, squab with morels and a salad that could have converted a longshoreman, we were at level 2 and climbing. Wolfe didn't mention Miriam Archer during the meal. That was normal. He chewed, he appreciated, he delivered a short lecture on people who oversalt mushrooms. After coffee, he waddled back to the office and lowered himself into his chair with enough weight to make the springs groan about their life choices. "Call her," he said. "Tell Miss Archer I accept." I did, from my desk. She answered on the second ring, voice steady but tighter than in person. "Well?" she asked. "He'll take it," I said. "You're officially under the yellow chair plan. Tomorrow I'll visit your brother at his ivory tower and see what's what. In the meantime, don't steal anything else from him. It could confuse the narrative." "I won't," she said. "Thank you." "You can save that for the invoice," I told her, and hung up. Wolfe watched me, steepling his fingers. "You observed her," he said. "Your impressions." "She doesn't flinch at you," I said. "She does it herself." "That's interesting. She's used to managing people, and she hates that she can't manage this. Also, she's telling the truth about not taking the contract." "You're sure?" he mocked. "Within the Goodwin margin of error," I said. "If she's lying about that, she's reinvented the craft, but she is lying about something else connected to Arcline and big enough to make her hairline tense. Whatever that old lie is, she's still carrying it. She's tired of the weight, but not enough to drop it yet." He grunted. "That is evident. The question is whether that old deceit bears upon the present appropriation. It may. It likely does. People rarely invent new methods when the old ones still function." "And Victor?" I asked. "What's your first guess about Big Brother?" "He is vain," Wolfe said. "He believes he can read faces. That's idiocy. The human countenance is a muddled palimpsest. Only fools think they read it fluently. He trusted her lie once, perhaps because it suited him. Now he distrusts her truth because it does not. He may have arranged this disappearance himself." "To what end?" I asked. "To test her loyalty," Wolfe said mildly. "To manipulate his prospective partners. To dramatize himself, or, most tedious of all, to punish her for refusing to validate his fantasy. Tomorrow will tell us which flavors of foolishness he favors. 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock it is," I said. "That gives me time to shave and find a tie that says, 'Respectable Parasite.'" He closed his eyes, which meant I was dismissed from his consciousness, if not the room. I spent the rest of the evening getting the bare bones on Arcline from the files, court summaries, a couple of archived articles, and one particularly purple blog post from a former employee who thought betrayal should be written with a capital B and footnotes. Next morning, after breakfast and an uninspired comment from Wolfe about the state of American coffee beans, I headed uptown. Victor Archer's building was the sort of place that believed in doormen, polished marble, and the kind of security that makes honest people nervous. The lobby smelled like expensive floor wax and subtle fear. The doorman gave me a look that suggested he graded visitors, and I'd come in around C+. "Mr. Victor Archer," I said. "Archie Goodwin. He's expecting me." He checked, got the nod from upstairs, and waved me to the elevator like he still wasn't sure civilization could stand this kind of strain. Victor's floor opened directly into a private foyer with a mirror big enough for 2 egos. A short woman in a navy dress, mid-50s, efficient, eyes that had seen everything twice, opened the door before I could ring. I pegged her as the cleaning woman, Rosa, before she even introduced herself. "Mr. Goodwin," she said. "That's right." "Mr. Archer is in his office," she said. "This way." She led me down a short hall into a living room that wanted to be in a magazine. It was all glass, leather, and neutral tones, like someone had told it feelings were tax-deductible. Victor Archer stood with his back to us, looking out over the city. When he turned, I saw Miriam around the eyes and not much else. He was early 40s, lean, tailored, with the relaxed tension of a man who drinks anxiety like espresso. "Goodwin," he said, "the famous errand boy." "I prefer investigative specialist," I told him, strolling in. "But I answer to Archie." He didn't offer a hand. That was fine with me. I like to know where mine have been. "So my sister's hired Nero Wolfe," he said. "Of course she has. If there's a dramatic solution, Miriam will find it. Sit down." The chair he indicated was modern and low, the kind you sink into reluctantly. I took it and let him loom. "You think she stole your contract?" I said. "She says she didn't. My employer likes to align such discrepancies." He snorted. "My sister has been lying since she could talk. This time, for once, she wants to pretend she's above it. I know her tells. She did it." "Then why hire us?" I asked mildly. "If you're sure." "Because she's stubborn," he said. "She'll turn the world inside out to prove herself right. If Wolfe can prove she did it and cram the truth down her throat, I'll pay double." "Generous," I said. "Show me the safe." Victor didn't bother pretending he was above showing off. He led me down a short hallway that tried to convert square footage into prestige. The home office was at the end. Big window, big desk, big screen on the wall graphing other people's anxiety in little green and red lines. "The safe is there," he said, pointing to a panel set flush in the wall behind the desk. It looked like part of the decor, which I suppose it was, in the sense that money is always part of the decor. "Nice," I said. "Does it also make coffee?" He ignored that and stepped behind the desk. "Code's in," he said, fingers moving too fast for me to follow. There was a muted beep and the panel slid open like it had rehearsed. Inside were a few folders, a small jewelry box, a watch case, and a stack of what looked like original stock certificates in plastic sleeves. No lonely contract crying for its mama. "This is how it looked when you discovered the contract missing?" I asked. "More or less. Things were a little messier then. I've straightened up." "Of course you have," I said. "Leave it open for a minute." He stepped back. I moved in, not touching anything yet, just taking in the layout. The folders were labeled Tax, Trust, NDAs, Miss C. The empty space where the arc line agreement had lived wasn't marked, but you can tell when something's been pulled from a formation. There was a gap between the NDAs and Miss Sky that had been filled in too neatly. "You keep cash in here?" I asked. "Never. That's what banks are for." "Any other documents gone?" "No." "Jewelry? Watches?" He gave me a look like I'd just accused him of stapling his own hand. "Everything is here. I checked." "Walk me through it," I said. "You signed the agreement. You put it where?" "In the safe." He jabbed a finger at the empty space. "Right there, in a red folder." I closed it, locked it, and went to bed. The next morning, around 10, I checked something else in the safe. The contract was still there. That night I had dinner with Elena and Daniel. The next morning, 6 a.m., I opened it again. The contract was gone. Between 10 a.m. and 6 a.m. the following day, I summarized. Who had access to this room? He ticked them off. Me. Miriam, theoretically. Rosa, the cleaner. She was here that afternoon, and the building's maintenance guy who came in to check a vent. That's it. "Nighttime?" I asked. "Any guests?" "No. I got home from dinner around 11, went straight to bed." "Alone?" I asked it as a formality. Sometimes those aren't. He hesitated half a second. "Yes, I'm single at the moment." "Everyone says that like it's a condition," I said. "Cameras." "In the hallway outside. Building has them, not me." I'll want to see that footage, I told him. Also talk to Rosa and your maintenance artist. Where do I find them? Rosa's here today, he said. She works Tuesdays and Fridays. Luis, that's maintenance, will be in the building somewhere. The super can get him. After we're done with the temple, I said, nodding at the safe. Humor me. Close it and open it again, slowly this time. He looked annoyed but did it. I watched his fingers. The code was 6 digits, punched with the confidence of habit. No telling who else had watched him perform that trick over the years. Do you ever change that? I asked. There's no need. There's always need, I said. Miriam had it from before. Anyone else? No one, he said. I'm not careless. I thought of the contract written by people he once trusted, and let that one go by. You argued with her, I said. Spelled out version, please. She doesn't approve, he said. She thinks Archline is cursed. She thinks the others are using me. She's always thought that. She has this idea that she's the only one who sees clearly. His mouth twisted. She forgets how much she didn't see last time. You mean the lie she kept, I said. She's mentioned one in a coy, we'll get to that later way. His jaw tightened. Of course she has. That's her favorite little martyrdom, the burden of the secret she can't talk about. Ask her if you want the soap opera. It doesn't change the fact that she took my contract. If you're that certain, I said, why not just cut her off and move on? Why bring us in? He took a breath through his nose. Because I want someone objective to tell her she did it. Someone she can't accuse of bias, and because if by some miracle she didn't, then I want to know who did. That contract represents a lot. Money, I suggested. More than that, he said, with the slight self-consciousness of a man about to say something he suspects is too honest. A chance to fix what I broke, to show I can do it right this time. That matters to me. I logged that under motives, subheading self-delusion. Fine, I said. Let's go ruin Rosa's morning. We found her in the kitchen, wiping down a stainless steel counter that could have hosted surgery. Up close, she was exactly what she'd seemed in the doorway. Compact, competent, not interested in nonsense. She looked at me, then at Victor. This is the detective, he said shortly. He has questions. I clean, she said. I don't know about contracts. That's what I'm here to find out, I told her. Tuesday, the day before the contract went missing. You worked your usual hours? 9 to 3, she said. Same every Tuesday unless Mr. Archer travels. You were here alone? She nodded. He left before I came back after I left. You go in the office? Yes. I dust, vacuum, empty trash. Do you ever touch the safe? She shot Victor a look. I'm not stupid. That's a no? I prompted. That is a never, she said. I don't touch what is not mine. I don't want trouble. Anyone else come in that day? I asked. Maintenance, deliveries? Luis came, she said. The vent in the bathroom made noise. He came at 11, was here half an hour. Did you stay while he worked? Sometimes I go to another room, she said. But I hear. He's not quiet. Did he go in the office? I asked. She hesitated, trying to be accurate and not dramatic. He passed the door. I did not see him go inside, but I was in the laundry room for a few minutes. Anyone else? I said. No, she said firmly. No visitors. No one I didn't know. I thanked her and got a small, grudging nod in return. She didn't like being questioned, but she liked being suspected even less. If she'd stolen the thing, she had the nerve for it, but she also had 10 years of steady work to lose and a face that didn't have guilt written anywhere I could see. Back in the office, Victor watched me like a man waiting for a prognosis he plans to argue with. Satisfied? He asked. Not yet, I said. Next, I'll talk to Luis and your co-resurrectors, Daniel, Lila, and Elena. In the meantime, don't change the safe or the story." He gave a short laugh. "You sound like my sister." "If I did," I said, "I'd charge you double. I'll be in touch." I left him with his skyline and went back through the lobby, where the doorman's eyebrows asked if civilization had survived. Outside, I took a minute on the sidewalk to run through the list. 1 contract, 4 former partners, 1 stubborn sister, 1 vain brother, a cleaner who didn't want trouble, and a maintenance man with a half-hour window and a vent alibi. By the time I got a cab, I knew where I was going next. If you want to understand a dead company rising from the grave, you don't start with the man funding the resurrection. You start with the people digging up the body. The cab got me downtown in reasonable time for New York, which means we only nearly died twice. Daniel Kent's address was in a converted warehouse that had started life holding freight and now held self-importance. The elevator smelled like concrete dust and ambition. His loft door was open a crack when I got there, music leaking out, something electronic and moody with too much bass. I knocked anyway. "Yeah?" a voice called. Male, mid-30s, stretched thin over sleep deprivation. "Archie Goodwin," I said, pushing the door wider. "You don't know me, but you know my employer's reputation. I'm here about Arcline and 1 missing contract." That got me a face. Daniel Kent came out from behind a metal shelving unit like a raccoon reluctantly leaving a server rack. He was lanky, in jeans and a black t-shirt that had known better days. His hair was a little too long, and a little too unbothered by brushes. The eyes were sharp, though. You see them on people who spend most of their time looking at screens and occasionally remember the world has 3 dimensions. "Nero Wolfe sent you?" he asked. "On a leash, yes," I said. "Do I come in? Or do we do this? In the hall for the neighbors' entertainment." He pulled the door fully open and waved me in. The place was a predictable mix. Industrial beams, exposed brick, whiteboards full of equations and diagrams, and 3 computer monitors glowing like altars. A battered couch sagged under the weight of laundry and empty coffee cups. "Sorry about the mess," he said, not sounding sorry. "I wasn't expecting whatever this is." "This," I said, "is Victor deciding his sister stole your new toy and wanting it confirmed or refuted by a professional. I'm here to collect impressions. You're the technical brain in this resurrection, right?" He snorted. "That's what Victor calls me when he wants me to ignore the red flags." "Which sister? Miriam?" "She only comes in 1 model," I said. "You know her well?" "Well enough to know she hates this whole plan," he said, folding his arms. "She told Victor we were going to chew him up and spit him out again. She's not wrong to worry, but stealing the contract, that's not her style." "Her style is what?" I asked. "Words," he said promptly. "Pressure. She'll fight you clause by clause. She doesn't sneak into safes. Victor likes thinking she's some dark manipulator. It flatters him to believe his life is full of Machiavellis." "So you didn't take it to save him from himself?" I asked. He gave me a look. "I'm not in the saving Victor business anymore. I was once. It didn't pay well." "Walk me through your big comeback tour," I said. "Who pitched the new Arcline?" "That was me," he admitted. "The tech we built back then? It's still better than half the junk that's out there. And the market's hungrier now. I've been tinkering with a forked version on my own, clean, no leftover code from the old mess. I needed capital and connections. Victor's got both. Lila's got operations. Elena can talk a brick wall into signing up for a newsletter. On paper, it's perfect." "And off paper?" I asked. He smiled without humor. "Off paper, it's 4 people with a history that should be left in a locked drawer, but we're all older now. I thought maybe we could be smarter too." "Did you see the agreement Victor signed?" I asked. "Of course, I helped draft parts of it." His jaw twitched. "Before you ask, no, I didn't write anything into it to screw him." Miriam's right that it's risky for him, but not in some secret, hidden way. Any startup is risky. He's used to that. I've seen risk, I said. This looks more like leverage. Who insisted on the indemnity clauses? His eyes slid briefly toward the whiteboards, like they kept better memories than he did. That was Elena, he said finally. She wanted protection if another data incident happened. Her rep took a beating last time. Mine too. Lila backed her. I didn't fight as hard as I could have. Victor wanted to own his mistakes or some nonsense. He signed. And you? I asked. You hadn't signed yet. I was going to, he said. We were supposed to meet last night to finalize and countersign. Then Victor called and said there was an issue, and he had to delay. Next thing I hear, Nero Wolfe is sniffing around, and Miriam's the villain of the week. He moved to the desk and picked up an empty coffee cup, turning it in his hands. Look, if Miriam wanted the deal dead, she'd have attacked the terms, not the paper. She'd convince Victor that we were conning him. She wouldn't play cat burglar. Maybe she's diversifying, I said. Any idea who would prefer the contract gone? Besides Miriam, he said. Elena, maybe if she thinks she can get Victor to sign a cleaner version more favorable to her once he panics. Lila, no, she's too tired for games. And me? He spread his hands. I need this. Without Victor, I go back to scraping by on consulting gigs and promising myself I'll launch soon. You all had dinner 2 nights ago, I said. The night before, he found it missing. Yeah, a nostalgia tour, he said. We were at a place Elena likes in Tribeca. She was in full charm mode. Lila was quiet. Victor was bouncing off the walls, talking about Phase 2 before Phase 1 existed. Miriam wasn't there, in case you're wondering. I was, I said. Anyone peel off with Victor after dinner? Elena shared a cab with him, he said. She said she wanted to keep the momentum. Lila and I walked. We talked about infrastructure and whether we were crazy. Answer, yes. Did Elena ever know his safe code? I asked. He hesitated. If she did, it was back when they were married. I doubt he's changed it, though. Victor doesn't change anything he doesn't have to. That's sort of the problem. I filed that with the growing pile of people who knew or could guess those 6 digits. When I left Daniel's loft, I had more color on the Arcline crowd, but no contract and no thief. What I did have was a feeling I'd met a man who genuinely wanted a second chance at the work, if not the people. That made him dangerous to someone. People who care about the product more than the politics are always a liability in a room full of strategists. I checked my watch. Plenty of day left to contaminate. Lila was next on the list, at her operations hub, which translated to a co-working space in Midtown. I headed for the subway, because even an errand boy has to stay relatable. On the train, swaying with the crowd, I thought about Miriam's face when she said she didn't know what she looked like telling the truth, and about Victor wanting an external referee for his grievances. Somewhere between them, a lie they'd kept together was still humming. Wolfe would say it was a structural weakness in the bridge. My job was to find where it cracked before somebody decided to jump. The co-working space where Lila Kent ran operations looked like someone had tried to monetize productivity and then spray-painted optimism over the bill. Glass walls, hot desks, plants on life support, and a snack bar promising brain fuel in biodegradable wrappers. A young guy at reception with a man bun and a t-shirt about disruption looked me over like I was here to sell toner. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I hope so," I said. "I'm looking for Lila Kent. She's expecting the rest of her life, but I'll settle for 20 minutes. He squinted at a tablet. "She's in conference room 3. Do you have a meeting?" "I do now," I told him, and walked past before he could decide what corporate policy said about it. Conference room 3 had a glass wall, a whiteboard, and 1 occupant. Lila sat at the small table with a laptop open and a stack of printed schedules spread around it. She wasn't what I expected, which is one of the few compliments I give out free. Late 30s, maybe, like Daniel, but steadier. Dark hair pulled back, no makeup I could spot. A plain shirt and slacks that said she'd decided years ago not to compete with Elena on presentation and was at peace with it. Her eyes were on the screen, moving fast, and when I knocked on the glass, they came up with less surprise than calculation. "Ms. Kent," I said, opening the door. "Yes," she said. Her voice was low and even. "Do I know you?" "Not yet. Archie Goodwin. I work for Nero Wolfe." That got a reaction. Not shock, but a little tilt of her head, like a chess player seeing an unexpected piece on the board. "Victor moves fast," she said. "Come in." I sat opposite her. On the whiteboard behind her, someone had written Q3 targets and then chickened out of specifying what they were. "So," she said, "who's your client?" "Victor." "Miriam? Or did someone else get there first?" "Miriam hired us," I said. "Victor is providing scenery. I'm taking a tour." Her mouth curved a fraction. "That sounds right. He would provide scenery. What do you need?" "Your angle on Archline coming back from the dead," I said, "and your angle on a certain contract that's gone walkabout from Victor's safe." She leaned back, considering. "I assume he thinks Miriam took it." "He does," I said. "You sound like you're used to that pattern." "It's predictable," she said. "He runs into a wall, looks around, sees Miriam, assumes she built the wall to teach him something." "She usually?" I asked. "Sometimes," Lila said. "She's good at seeing where things will break. It's useful until it isn't." "And now?" I said. "Was she trying to break this?" "She doesn't have to," Lila said quietly. "This will break on its own if we're not careful. That's why I said yes in the first place. To be careful. Daniel thinks the tech saves us. Victor thinks the money does. Elena thinks the story does. Someone has to think about the people who have to show up every day and make it work." She said it like a fact, not a boast. I believed her. "You saw the agreement?" I asked. "I did," she said. "Several drafts. The last one? I didn't love it. The indemnity terms are ugly, but Victor wanted to shoulder responsibility. It fits his new narrative. Repentant destroyer turned careful builder." "You didn't sign yet," I said. "I was waiting to see if he'd sleep on it and change his mind," she said. "He didn't. Then the contract disappeared and suddenly we're back in circus mode." "You didn't take it?" I asked, watching her face. "No," she said. "If I wanted Archline dead, I'd walk away. I wouldn't steal a piece of paper and hope Victor interpreted the symbolism correctly. That's more Miriam's language, but she uses words, not safes." "That chorus is getting loud," I said. "Everyone tells me Miriam's a talker, not a thief." "They're wrong about one thing," Lila said. "She is a thief. She steals illusions. She walks into a room and takes away your ability to pretend. People hate her for it, especially Victor." "Did she ever lie for him?" I asked. Lila's eyes flicked down, then back. "You're dancing around the old mess." "I'm waltzing with it," I said. "She says she kept one big lie for him when Archline fell. Victor says the same in his way. Daniel alluded to a secret martyrdom. You were there. You know the choreography." She closed the laptop slowly. "I know enough to tell you this. If that lie comes out, someone's credibility is finished. Not just Victor's. Mine. Maybe Daniel's. Miriam protected him, yes. But she also protected the company for as long as she could. It didn't matter in the end. Things still blew up." "That's vague," I said. "It's the best I can do without a subpoena," she said. "Ask Miriam. It's her lie. I only stood near it." "Did you know his safe code back then?" I asked. "No," she said. "I was never in his apartment. I was always at the office or in server rooms. I know how to get root access to systems I built. I don't care about his home hardware. Anyone you'd bet on for this? I asked. Contract goes missing, Victor screams Miriam. You think? I think someone wants to force a confrontation, she said. Either to stop the deal or to renegotiate it. Elena, maybe. She likes leverage. Or Victor himself if he's trying to prove a point. I'm not ruling out Daniel entirely, but if he had done it, he'd be spiraling about it. He's terrible at secrets. He seemed composed enough, I said. Then he didn't take it, she said simply. I let that sit. You all had dinner 2 nights ago. Anything interesting besides the nostalgia and indigestion? Helena told a story about the time we almost lost the first Arcline client, because Victor refused to comp a feature, she said. He laughed a little too hard. Daniel brought up the breach and everyone got quiet. Victor said this time would be different. He said, we've already paid for our sins once. And you? I asked. I asked who defined we, she said. Nobody answered. I left her with her schedules and her co-working optimism and stepped back into the hallway. The man bun at reception watched me like I might steal the ergonomic chairs. Outside, my phone buzzed. Wolfe doesn't love portable phones, but he loves access, so he tolerates mine. I answered, Sir. Yes, sir. Report, he said. I gave him the highlights. Victor's vanity, Rosa's indignation, Daniel's second-chance dream, Lila's grim pragmatism. When I got to the shared lie, I heard the faintest grunt down the line. As expected, he said. It is axial. You will see Mrs. Elena Archer next. She's on my dance card, I said. Any special steps? Observe her as the others have described her, as the custodian of narrative, he said. Those who control the story often control the lie. And Archie, yes? Be home by 6. I dislike discussing dinner with a telephone. The line clicked off. That was Wolfe, worried about the menu and the metaphysics in the same breath. I checked the time. Plenty of hours left to let Eleanor sell me her version of redemption before I carried the whole circus back to the brownstone, where Wolfe would sit and think and begin to squeeze. Elena Archer's agency was in a Soho building that had once been about manufacturing and was now about image. Her name was on the buzzer. Inside, the elevator opened onto a space that smelled of perfume, printer ink, and curated authenticity. Exposed brick, framed campaign stills, a couple of sleek desks with sleek people at them. A receptionist with hair so straight it probably had a lawyer looked up. Can I help you? I hope so, I said. Elena Archer. Tell her Archie Goodwin is here about a missing story, bound in legalese. She gave me the look people reserve for unverified metaphors, but made the call. 30 seconds later, Elena came out of a glass-walled office like she was making an entrance on cue. Mid-30s, blonde, done right, dress that said money without shrieking it. Everything about her was controlled, posture, smile, angles of approach. Mr. Goodwin, she said, offering a hand that had been moisturized into diplomacy. I've heard of you. You and your employer create interesting endings. We try not to write them in advance, I said. Her handshake was firm, dry, and just long enough. You have a minute? For Arcline, she said. Always. Come in. Her office had a view of the street and a wall of photos. Products, events, a couple of shots from Arcline's glory days. 4 faces, younger and cockier, pretending not to pose. She saw me looking. We were children, she said lightly. We thought encryption and idealism would save the world. Instead, we made some lawyers rich. Lawyers need love too, I said, taking a chair. You've heard about the latest twist. Victor's contract vanishing? She shrugged one shoulder. Of course. He called me in a rage. Said Miriam had gone too far. I told him that's what he gets for treating his sister like a conscience on retainer. You don't think she did it? I asked. I think she could, Elena said. She has the will and the brains. but I'm not sure she'd risk the fallout. She likes to be right, but she also likes to be righteous. Stealing a contract muddies that. And you? I asked. Would you? She smiled, slow and amused. If I wanted to stop the deal, I'd stop Victor. Contracts are replaceable. Capital isn't. I need him in. I've rebuilt a lot since Archline imploded, but there are rooms I still can't get into without someone like him. You pushed the indemnity clauses, I said. I protected myself, she corrected. We all got burned last time. I'm not letting my reputation ride on Victor's impulses again without safeguards. If that looks like leverage, well, welcome to business. After dinner 2 nights ago, I said, you shared a cab with him. Yes, she said. He was in a mood. Grand speeches about redemption. I listened, made the right noises. He invited me up for a drink. I said no. I had work to do and patience to conserve. You ever know his safe code when you were married? I asked. Her eyes flicked, just a fraction. I could have, she said, if I'd wanted. Victor is not opaque, but I made a point of not going near his little fortress. It made him feel powerful to have secrets. You don't step on a man's stage props. That's not a denial, I said. It's a statement, she replied. If I'd opened that safe, he would know. I'm not subtle about my betrayals. It's part of my charm. I took her through the rest, her current finances. Solid, but Archline 2.0 would kick them up. Her feelings about Daniel, fond contempt. About Lila, respect with sorrow. About Miriam, annoyed gratitude. Miriam lied for him once, I said. You all keep circling that. What's the lie? Elena's smile thinned. If she hasn't told you, she will, eventually. And when she does, you'll understand why Victor is clinging so hard to his story about her now. He needs her to be the villain again. It absolves him. Of what? I pressed. Of letting us all drown, she said softly. You can quote me or not. It won't change the ending. I left her office with the sense of having been given 3/4 of a pitch, with the last quarter held back for effect. She was right about one thing. She wasn't subtle. If she'd decided to pull that contract, she'd have done it in a way that left her holding the pen for the next draft. By the time I headed back uptown, the day had eaten more of itself than Wolfe liked. I walked into the brownstone at 5:40, which left him 20 whole minutes to be disappointed in me. Fritz was in the hall, looking composed and aromatic. Mr. Wolfe is in the office, he said. He is not pleased. That covers a lot of ground, I said, hanging up my hat. Which flavor? Intruded upon, Fritz said primly. That was a new one. I went into the office. Wolfe was in his chair, but the angle of him was wrong. Too rigid. On his desk, the notebooks I'd left were stacked slightly off from how I'd left them. He doesn't miss that kind of thing. Welcome home, he said. We have been visited. When Wolfe says visited in that tone, he doesn't mean by the Avon lady. I shut the door behind me. If it was Santa, he's early. He didn't bother with a snort. While you were out, he said, someone entered this house and this room without my knowledge or consent. That is an obscenity. I glanced automatically at the windows, the safe, the desk. Fritz let them in. Fritz was upstairs, Wolfe said. The bell did not ring. The front door was unlocked when he came down at 4:15. He has certainly locked it after you this morning. That tightened something low in my gut. Fritz doesn't get absent-minded about locks. Anything gone? I asked, crossing to the desk. I do not know yet, Wolfe said. I know only that someone has been here. He pointed, not dramatically, just precise. The top right-hand drawer of his desk was open a 1/4 inch. Wolfe doesn't leave drawers ajar. It's not aesthetic. I stepped around, slid it open. The usual contents. Notebooks, a box of paper clips, a half-used pad of yellow legal sheets, a small wooden cigar box he used for odds and ends. The cigar box lid was the tiniest bit askew. "May I?" I asked. "If you must," he said. I opened the box. Inside were 3 fountain pens, a folded slip of paper with a phone number, and a single white index card. The card lay on top, face up, like it had been placed there with deliberation. On it, in neat block letters, someone had written, "You're looking in the wrong safe." I said a word Fritz doesn't approve of. Wolfe grunted. "You comprehend why I'm nettled." "Fritz didn't see anyone?" I asked, still staring at the card. It wasn't just the words, it was the fact that someone had walked into this room, opened Wolfe's desk, and left a calling card like they were doing us a favor. "He heard no bell, no footsteps," Wolfe said. "He was in the plant rooms from 3:30 to 4. When he came down, the front door was unlocked and the bolt unshot. The office door was as you see it. Your notebooks," he flicked a finger at my stack, "had been displaced by an inch." "And you?" I asked. "You were with the orchids until 4. "Yes. Theodore can confirm that I did not descend to play games with drawers." His eyes narrowed at the card. "We have been warned." "Or steered," I said. "You're looking in the wrong safe. That's specific." "Phooey," he said. "It's taunting. It suggests knowledge both of our involvement and of my habits. It also suggests someone with the arrogance to enter my house unannounced." "That narrows it down to roughly everyone in this case," I said. "Victor would love the drama. Elena would love the control. Daniel might think it's clever. Lila would hate the risk. Miriam, he repeated, would be capable of using my sanctity as leverage. But she has not yet been told we accepted the case, has she?" "I called her last night," I said. "Told her you'd taken it. I'd see Victor this morning. She knows we're engaged." He made a face. "So do Victor, Daniel, and Lila by now. And likely Elena. The contagion of gossip spreads faster than influenza." He shifted his bulk very slightly. "Describe your day." I gave him the rundown, from Victor's safe demo to Rosa's indignation to Daniel's raccoon loft and Lila's co-working cave, finishing with Elena's performance and her not denial about the old safe code. He listened without interruption, only a tightening around his eyes at certain points. Miriam's reputation as a thief of illusions, Daniel's admission that he'd pitched the resurrection, Lila's line about who defines we. When I finished, I tapped the card. "This sounds like inside baseball," I said. "Somebody who knows there's more than one safe in play." "There are 3, Wolfe said. "Victor's wall unit, the company's old digital archive, wherever it now resides, and the lie Miss Archer has been guarding, which has kept certain truths locked away. That last safe is here, not in a wall." "In Miriam," I said. "Precisely." He steepled his fingers. "Our visitor may be admonishing us to excavate that before we chase steel and tumblers, or he or she is attempting to divert us from something in Victor's possession we have yet to consider." "Either way," I said, "I don't like them using our living room as a suggestion box." "Nor do I," Wolfe said. "This trespass is intolerable. It also, regrettably, supplies data. The intruder had a key or was admitted. The lock shows no mark. The note's tone suggests familiarity with our methods. It is time, I think, to expand our resources." I knew what that meant. "Saul?" "Of course," he said. "You will telephone Mr. Panzer. He will speak with the doorman, with the super, with this Luis. He will discover who has been attentive to the comings and goings at Mr. Archer's building. You will, meanwhile, invite Miss Archer here tomorrow morning. I have questions for her that will not wait." "You're going to crack her safe," I said. "I intend," Wolfe replied, looking at the card like it had insulted his ancestry, "to determine which lies this house is being asked to shelter, and to expel them." Saul picked up on the second ring, which is fast for a man who likes to know who's calling him before he answers. "Panzer," he said. "Goodwin," I told him. "Wolfe wants eyes and ears at Victor Archer's castle. Also on whoever holds the keys, literal and figurative. I heard you were on a tech job, he said. Missing code? Missing paper, I said. Same thing, just easier to misplace. I'll bring you up to speed tonight if you want the deluxe package. For now, high-end condo, wall safe, short suspect list, plus a maintenance guy named Luis and a building staff who think privacy is a performance art. Wolfe wants to know who's paying attention to comings and goings, and whether anybody's been asking questions besides us. I'll start with the doorman, Saul said. They always talk eventually. Text me the address. I did, added a few notes, and hung up. Wolfe watched, eyes half closed, while I relayed the gist of the conversation. Good, he said. If someone has been circulating, Mr. Panzer will sniff it. And Miriam? I asked. 10 o'clock tomorrow, he said. Inform her that I will require candor. Tell her I will know the difference. That's comforting, I said. For one of you. She arrived at 9:58, which told me two things. She respected schedules, and she understood the value of being seen to respect them. Fritz showed her in. She had traded the gray suit for deep blue, but the tightness in her shoulders was the same. Mr. Goodwin, she said, has my brother fired you yet? Not today, I said. You're wanted in the sanctum. Watch your step. The floor's offended. She took that with only a flicker in her eyes and followed me in. Wolfe was in his chair, monumental and unsmiling. The white card lay on his desk where he'd positioned it, centered like an exhibit. Miss Archer, he said. Sit. She did. Her gaze went to the card, read the message, and her fingers curled on the arm of the chair. The reaction was genuine. If she'd put it there herself, she deserved an Oscar. What is that? She asked. A vulgarity, Wolfe said. Someone entered my house while Mr. Goodwin was abroad and left that in my desk. You see the text. You're looking in the wrong safe, she read aloud. Meaning what? Meaning, Wolfe said, that our intruder believes I am neglecting the most important repository of truth in this matter. There are several candidates. Victor's safe, Arcline's old systems, or, his eyes fixed on her. The lie you have been keeping for 5 years. I require that lie now. She held his gaze. I'll give her that. I told you, she said. I wasn't ready to... Pooh, Wolfe cut in. You have involved me. You have brought to my house a conflict resting on that deception. Someone who knows of it or suspects it has violated this room to prod me. I will not have my home used as the stage for your moral procrastination. You will tell it. Entirely. Now. Her throat worked. Her eyes went to me, maybe hoping for a softer surface to land on. I just looked back. I've been the audience for a lot of confessions in that room, and I knew the signs. This one had been fermenting for a while. All right, she said finally, exhaling. You're right. It's central. She sat back like she was bracing herself against something unseen. When Arcline collapsed, she began, the public story was that there had been a data breach due to inadequate protocols and negligence in monitoring. Daniel took most of the professional blame. He was the CTO. He had signed off on certain security audits that later looked rosier than they should have. The lawsuits focused there. And the private story? Wolfe asked. The private story, she said slowly, is that Victor knew about a vulnerability 6 weeks before the breach, a serious one. A major client's data was at risk. Daniel found it, flagged it, told Victor we needed to halt a rollout and fix it. Victor said no. He'd already promised a feature to another investor, and delaying would have cost him the deal, so he told Daniel to patch what he could quietly and keep the rest off the books until after the announcement. Her hands were still, but her voice got thinner. Daniel refused at first, she went on. They fought. Victor came to me. He wanted me to mediate. Said Daniel was overreacting, that everything in startup land was calculated risk. He begged me to talk Daniel into softening the report. And you did, Wolfe's tone was flat. "No," she said. "Not at first. I told Daniel to document everything. He did. He wrote a full internal memo, sent it to Victor, to Lila, to me, marked it confidential. Then, 2 weeks later, the breach happened, exactly as he'd warned. Data exposed, clients angry, Arcline cooked." She looked down at her hands now. "The lawyers descended," she said. "The board wanted someone to hang. Victor panicked. He came to me with the memo. He said if it came out that he'd known the risk and chosen to ignore it, he'd be finished. Criminal negligence, maybe. He begged me, again. Said he'd lose everything. Said Daniel would recover. He had talent. He'd code again. Victor only had his name. He asked me to reinterpret the memo." "Which means?" I asked. "Which means," she said, "I told the board and the lawyers that Daniel had sent only a short, vague heads-up email, that the detailed memo was drafted after the breach, as a reconstruction, not a prior warning. I swore to it. I framed it as Daniel trying to cover himself after the fact. The original timestamps disappeared. I made sure." She swallowed. "Daniel never knew about that part," she said. "He only knew Victor wasn't backing him fully. He thought Victor was just being cowardly, not using the memo as hard evidence. I let him believe that. I let him carry the weight, and Victor let me." Silence sat with us for a few seconds. Wolfe's eyes were half-lidded, but I knew better than to think he was relaxed. "So the lie," he said, "is that your brother knowingly suppressed a warning, and you altered the record to protect him at Daniel's expense." "Yes," she whispered. "And who, besides you and Victor, knew the truth?" Wolfe asked. "No one," she said. "At least that's what I thought. The memo was handled. The lawyers only saw what I showed them." "Miss Archer," Wolfe said quietly, "you are intelligent. You know documents cast shadows, drafts, caches, backups. You cannot be certain no trace remained." Her face changed then, a flicker of fear under the fatigue. "You think someone found one, after all this time?" "I think," Wolfe said, flicking the card with a finger, "that someone wants this buried lie exhumed in a way that benefits them. The missing contract, this intrusion, this note, they are not isolated acts. They are maneuvers on the same board." "And you're saying," I put in, "that while we've been staring at Victor's metal box, the real leverage might be in whatever's left of that memo, and who has their hands on it?" Miriam closed her eyes briefly. "If that's true," she said, "then I've handed them the shovel." Wolfe leaned back, the chair protesting. "No, madam," he said. "You handed it to your brother 5 years ago. Someone else has come along and picked it up. Our task now is to discover who and what grave they intend to dig." If Miriam had been hoping that unburdening herself would make Wolfe sympathetic, she'd misread the man. He doesn't do sympathy. He does structure. What she'd just handed him wasn't a sob story, it was a load-bearing beam. "You will remain available," he told her. "Do not attempt to repair anything with your brother. Do not warn anyone. Any further improvisation will hamper me." "That's my specialty," she said weakly. "Hampering men." "Your specialty," he said, "is misjudging the long-term effects of your interventions. Archie will see you out." She rose like the weight had settled deeper instead of lifting. In the hall, she paused. "Mr. Goodwin," she said, "if it turns out this is all because of that one choice." "It won't be because of just that," I said. "People don't wait 5 years to cash a single chip. If somebody's playing a game now, they brought their own deck." She managed a ghost of a smile, then left. The front door closed with Fritz's polite finality. When I got back to the office, Wolfe had his eyes closed, lips compressed, fingers steepled. I knew the posture. It wasn't contemplation, it was revulsion held in check. "Clients," I said, dropping into my chair, "are hell." "Spare me commentary," he muttered. "We have facts, a warning memo, suppressed, a man, Daniel, left to bear the onus of negligence, a brother who accepted that protection and has built his self-concept on it. And now a second venture proposed with the same people, on a foundation no more stable. It is intolerable. But useful, I said, to somebody. Evidently, he said and opened his eyes. We must determine who has access to that memo or its descendants. There is no guarantee Miss Archer's surgery was complete. Daniel could have kept a copy, I said. Local machine, backup, old inbox. Lila, too. She was on the original distro. And Elena, Wolfe asked. If she saw it, I said, she'd weaponize it. But Miriam claims she fed the lawyers and bored a sanitized timeline, and the memo itself handled. He gave me a look. You have observed that Miss Archer is an accomplished liar. Sure, I said. But if she was lying about destroying it, why confess at all? She could have kept the whole thing under wraps. She hates that lie. I believe she tried to kill it. Trying, Wolfe said, is not succeeding. Computers remember what they are told. So do men who feel betrayed. Mr. Panzer will report this evening. He may narrow our options. As if cued, the phone rang at 7:20, just after Fritz brought coffee. I picked up. Archie, Saul's voice said. You home? Body, if not soul, I said. Hit me. Your Victor's building is as tight as a drum unless you're staff, he said. Doorman knows you, knows Miriam, knows Elena, says nobody else has been up to that floor this week who doesn't belong. But here's the thing. 2 days before the contract went missing, a guy from a data recovery outfit came by. Claimed he'd been called about a fried backup drive in the building. Spent an hour in the basement server room with the super. Name? I asked. Used Mark Ellis, Saul said. License checks out as fake. Company doesn't exist. Super says he was very professional. Asked a lot of questions about long-term storage, old archives, what the building did when tenants dumped hardware, especially 5-6 years back. I glanced at Wolfe. He was listening hard. Any tie to Archline? I asked. The super remembers one tenant from that period who offloaded a bunch of old office equipment after a bankruptcy, Saul said. Startup, lots of computers. Storage room downstairs had boxes labeled with their name for a while. Archline. That got a grunt out of me. Let me guess, I said. Those boxes are gone now. Carted off last year when the storage lease lapsed, Saul said. Supposedly shredded. But our fake Mark asked for copies of the transport receipts, the shredding company, the chain of custody. And the day after the contract vanished. I'm told someone who might have been him was seen talking to your buddy Daniel outside his building. I thanked him and hung up. Wolfe's fingers drummed once on the arm of his chair, a rare physical tell. So, I said, somebody with enough brains to pose as data recovery comes sniffing around Archline's leftovers, then meets Daniel, then the contract evaporates, then our desk gets love notes. Not love, Wolfe said. Authority. He's announcing himself as custodian of a truth we do not yet possess. Which truth? I asked. The memo? A backup? Something worse? That, he said, is what he wishes us to wonder, but he has overreached. He has touched my house. His gaze shifted to the empty chairs. We're close to critical mass, I said. You thinking what I'm thinking? That we must bring them all here, he said, and strip this to the bone? Yes. Arrange it, Archie. Tomorrow evening, Miss Archer, her brother, the Kents, and Mrs. Archer. They have been playing with safes and ghosts long enough. It is time they learned what a real confinement feels like. He closed his eyes again, but this time it wasn't in disgust. It was in anticipation. Getting them all into the office at the same time was like arranging a small, hostile solar system. By 7 that evening, the yellow chairs were full and the air was thick enough to slice. From left to right, Daniel, stiff and wired. Lila, composed and pale. Elena, immaculate, one leg crossed over the other like a weapon. Victor, simmering in the red chair. Miriam in the right-hand yellow, shoulders drawn but eyes steady. Wolfe sat behind his desk, a continent in a brown suit. I took my usual place by the wall, pen ready in case civilization needed a transcript. Wolfe let the silence work for a full 20 seconds. Then he spoke. "You have all," he said, "been playing with safes. A metal one in Mr. Archer's wall, a digital one in Archline's bones, and a moral one in Miss Archer's conscience. It is tiresome. We will now open them." Victor snorted. "Can we skip to the part where you tell Miriam she took my contract?" "No," Wolfe said, "because she did not." That landed. Miriam's fingers clenched. Victor half rose. "She had my code." "Be seated," Wolfe said without raising his voice. "You have been remarkably obtuse, Mr. Archer, even for a man in love with his own instincts. Your conviction that you can read your sister's face has blinded you to every useful fact. She lied for you 5 years ago, yes, but she is telling the truth now. The appropriation of your contract is another's work." "Whose then?" Elena asked, with a polite little curve to her mouth. "One of us, I assume, for symmetry." "Symmetry is for decorators," Wolfe said. "This is function. First, Archline's fall. Daniel warned of a vulnerability. He documented it in a memo copied to you, Miss Kent, and to your sister. Mr. Archer chose profit over prudence. He asked her to bury your warning. She obliged." Daniel stared at Miriam. Lila closed her eyes. Elena's jaw tightened, just a hair. "I knew you didn't back me," Daniel said hoarsely to Victor. "I didn't know." "You knew enough," Wolfe cut in. "You knew the man you trusted valued his convenience above your integrity. You left. You have been hungry ever since. For vindication and a second chance." He turned his gaze to Daniel. 2 days before the contract vanished, a man calling himself Mark Ellis visited your former building as a data recovery specialist. He inquired about old hardware, specifically Archline's. The next day, he was seen speaking with you. Daniel swallowed. "He found me," he said. "Said he'd done work for the building, that he'd come across a corrupted archive from an old tenant. Archline. There was a fragment of my memo in it, enough to show the original timestamp. Enough to prove Victor knew. And he offered it to you," Wolfe said. "As what? A trophy?" "A chance," Daniel said. "He wanted money to reconstruct more. I didn't hire him. I told him to walk. I didn't want to live in that fire again." "You didn't hire him," Wolfe agreed. "But someone did." His eyes moved to Elena. She didn't flinch. "You're certain it was me?" she said. "Yes," Wolfe said. "You rely on narrative. With that memo restored, you could recast the old story. Daniel vindicated, Victor exposed, Archline's legend rebranded. Valuable if you're launching Archline 2.0 and selling lessons learned. But you require Victor in the frame. You cannot destroy him. You must bind him." Victor turned to her, slow. "You..." "What?" "You engaged the man who called himself Mark," Wolfe went on. "You had reason to know there might be remnants. You watched Miriam manage the lie. With his help, you secured a copy sufficient to scare Mr. Archer into compliance later. But then Miss Archer involved me. That complicated your schedule." "So I stole the contract?" Elena asked. "Is that your thesis?" "You needed time," Wolfe said. "The deal was moving faster than your leverage. You knew, or could guess, his safe code from your marriage. Mr. Archer does not change his toys. After dinner, you rode up in his elevator as you told Mr. Goodwin. You declined a drink, you say. In truth, you took one, long enough to open the safe and remove the agreement. Only that. You wanted him to suspect Miriam. Guilt distorts his judgment, and you profit from chaos." She laughed once. "And the note in your desk? I broke into your shrine as well?" "No," Wolfe said. "You hired the same man. He is adept at locks. You told him to warn me off the obvious steal and onto the more interesting vault. Miriam's lie. You believed, correctly, that once that truth emerged, Victor would be cornered. He could not walk away without admitting his past, publicly or privately. He would cling to the one option that allowed him to reframe himself. Your reborn Archline. Elena's eyes were bright now, anger and something like admiration mixed. And what do I get in your version? You get a narrative, Wolfe said. The woman who shepherded the flawed men through fire. The keeper of the cautionary tale, with a tidy equity stake. No one spoke. Then Victor said quietly, "Is it true?" Elena didn't look at him. "The part that matters is," she said. "You did know. You did ignore it. We all paid. I just decided if we were going back in, we were going in with the truth in my pocket. And you used me," Miriam said, her voice low. "Again." "I used what was already there," Elena replied. "Your lie, his guilt, Daniel's wounded pride, Lila's conscience. I didn't create the safes. I just opened them." "That," Wolfe said, "is precisely why I will not permit you to close this one in your favor." He addressed Victor. "My obligation was to determine who stole your contract and whether your sister did so. She did not. Mrs. Archer took it. If you persist in this venture, you will do so knowing exactly what foundation it stands on. I suggest you burn it instead." Victor looked from Elena to Miriam to Daniel and Lila, the past finally standing where he could see it. For once, he had nothing to say. Later, after they'd gone, Elena first, chin high, Daniel and Lila together, Victor and Miriam separately, orbits broken, Wolfe and I sat in the quiet. Fritz brought dinner, lamb, beans, and a salad that didn't deserve the company it had kept all day. Wolfe ate more than I expected. "So it's over," I said. "No bodies, just a pile of singed ego." "It is never over," Wolfe said. "They will go on lying to themselves in new arrangements. That is their prerogative." He buttered a roll with precise irritation. "The only lie we have dispelled," he went on, "is the one Miss Archer thought she could keep forever. Safes are for valuables, Archie. Not for guilt. Guilt ferments. It will always explode sooner or later, and usually in someone else's house." "That's why you hate them?" I asked. "Safes?" "I hate what people put in them," he said. "They think concealment is absolution. It is merely indigestion." He lifted his beer, took a long pull, and closed his eyes. "Still," he added, "I am relieved that for once, a lie kept here did not belong to us." "Speak for yourself," I said. "I've told the couch I'd stop dropping crumbs a dozen times." He grunted. "You are incorrigible." "Sure," I said, "but at least you always know what I look like when I'm telling the truth." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The brownstone was quiet again, the door locked, the safes, metal and otherwise, empty enough for the night.